You are listening to Dream and Do, a podcast for big-hearted creatives, empaths, and sensitive souls who are ready to show up wholeheartedly in their businesses and their lives. My name is Nicola Ray Wickham, and I'll be helping you to be seen and heard and build brands that make a real, meaningful contribution to the world. Your whole self is welcome to this table, and you're invited to pull up a chair and join me for confidence pep talks, soulful insights, and practical tips on all things creativity, marketing, truth-telling, and story sharing, and powerful conversations with amazing, wholehearted women who are dreaming and doing in action and disrupting the status quo as they go. This is the stuff you're going to wish you knew years ago, but don't worry, we are doing this in community, you are not alone, and it's not too late. This is our time. Before we get into this conversation, I'm taking a moment to shout out the sponsor of this episode of the podcast, Visit Health. Visit Health provides same-day nursing care services, laboratory and functional tests. And best of all, they come to you. So over the years, I have become even more interested in wellness, the wellness space and the wellness industry, hence my business and my brand. And of course, with that comes my interest in my own personal wellness. After having my youngest daughter, who is now 16 months old, I knew it was important for me to have my vitamin D levels checked, especially as a Black person. So many of us are deficient in this area. So in working with Visit Health, I chose to have my vitamin D levels tested. I mean, Marley's sleep is all over the place, so I'm that little bit knackered a lot of the time, but I just felt like it was a bit more than that in terms of the way that I was feeling. And I had this suspicion that things weren't right, but I had just kept putting it off. And then the pandemic happened, and I don't know about you, but I really don't want to be going to the doctor's surgery unless I absolutely have to. And also, in some cases, we wouldn't even be able to get an appointment for something like this because it's not considered an emergency. So in working with Visit Health, I chose to get my vitamin D levels tested. Super easy. Book a visit, meet the medic, and get the results all in a super short time frame. And that's just the thing, right? It's so easy for us to put our health at the bottom of the list, ignore the nudges and the niggles until it becomes an emergency situation. And then suddenly we feel justified in making that appointment or asking for help or asking to be checked out and tested. We're often so kind of quick to try the latest wellness fad without having a grip on the basics of our health. This is a way of us prioritizing our own wellness. So Visit Health have a variety of tests that you can take with them, and you can find out more at visithealth.london. Hey loves, and welcome to the podcast. And I have Sharon Walters here in conversation for you this episode. The wonderful, the delectable, the amazing, the talented Sharon Walters. And in this conversation, we get into so much. We talk about her collection, Seeing Ourselves, and what that means. We talk about what it was like growing up as Black girls in West London. We talk about the workplace, we talk about creativity, life as an artist, with a family. We talk about all of the things. And I'm trusting, and I just know that you're going to find this hugely inspiring and motivating and like a big hug, especially for those of you who are like, where do I fit my creativity in? And maybe you're sitting there at the moment and you can't quite see how the dreams are going to come together. Sharon's story is like a warm cocoa. So let's just get straight into it. Sharon, welcome to the podcast. So you were just telling me You were telling me something that's made me just get a little bit emotional.
Okay.
Say it again.
Well, firstly, I want to thank you for having me on the podcast. And what I was just telling you is that I've always wanted to be on your podcast. Always. So when you asked me, I felt, and I'm welling up because because when you asked me, I just thought, oh my gosh, she's actually asked me, and I get to talk and I get to share my story, and I just think your podcasts are truly magical and they're so inspirational. So I want to thank you for allowing me to speak on it.
Oh my goodness, it's so funny because I haven't done interviews on the podcast for a really long time, because obviously with having Marley, it just didn't fit into life to be able to know I could be around at a certain time. So I've been doing the solo episodes on my walks, kind of raw, real.
And I love them. I love your solo episodes.
Thank you.
I really do. I think they're brilliant.
It's imperfection for the win, in real time, in real life. But I've wanted to return to doing the interviews, and to be honest, it fell by the wayside because clients took priority in the time that I had planned and things like that. And then it was just came to me, it's like, now I've got the capacity to do it, and the desire has just, it's like a pressure cooker, needs to happen. And I always knew from the moment we met, which was, how long ago? Maybe 2 years?
Yeah, I think it's over 2 years ago now. Yeah.
I knew that you were going to be on the podcast. So in the back of my mind, it was always like, of course, I'm going to have Sharon on the podcast when I get my arse in gear. Of course.
Oh, and I just remember thinking, I think one of the first times I met you, well, one of the times that I remember meeting you was when you came to see my artwork. And you've done that a couple of times. And each time it's made me just go, she's actually come. She's actually been here. She's come to see my work. I think it's 3 times.
Yeah.
I think the first was in like a pop-up exhibition.
It was, yeah.
And I think you surprised me. You like surprising me. So, yeah, just a big thank you to you for being so supportive.
Thank you. Thank you for being you, and thank you for sharing your work with the world, because it's so special and it means so much to so many of us. And to know that it's now adorning the homes of so many people just makes me so happy. So for those people who maybe haven't heard of you, tell us about this.
Well, I'm Sharon, and I'm an artist, mother of 2. I work for museums, and I coordinate community engagement programs. I work for a local history museum, but I also freelance for other museums and galleries. I am the creator of Seeing Ourselves, which is a collage series which features women of African descent with natural Afro hair. The work explores identity, race, Western beauty standards, how we see ourselves. It also, in particular, it looks at, for me, it looks at arts and heritage and the lack of representation in so many areas, but in particular, arts and heritage, because that's the field I work in.
I love it. There's so much that I want to talk to you about. Let's start with Seeing Ourselves. How did that come about? And before I let you answer, I just want to let you know what it means to me. Because the fact of women of our generation, we didn't see ourselves. And that became so normal that the level of acceptance of us not seeing ourselves was just that's the way it is. And what I love about part of the time we find ourselves in now, I'll call the millennials have this millennial swag that our Generation X don't tend to have. Because, and I think part of it is because we didn't see ourselves and we didn't expect to. So I always remember I was such a magazine junkie as a child, And then I never saw a magazine with anyone that looked like me.
No.
Or reading books. I remember Sister Soldiers, Coldest Winter Ever, made such an impact.
Mm.
And it made such an impact not because our stories, like the protagonists in this, our stories weren't similar and I couldn't identify in that way, but she was Black.
Mm.
And that's it. So it was that there's something very powerful about seeing ourselves. And I was watching TV with Marley earlier, and Jojo and Gran Gran came on.
Mm-hmm.
And she loves it. So as soon as the music comes on, Jojo and Gran Gran. Oh, you probably...
I'm not sure what that is because my kids are a bit older.
Yeah, of course. I'll pass that stage. So basically it's a CBeebies show with a Black family.
Oh, okay.
And it's Jojo and her gran. And her gran looks after her while her parents are at work.
Yeah.
So Marley stops. And she looks and her face lights up because she knows the music. And she just stood there. She doesn't stay still for very long. She stood there for about 30 seconds. It's a long time in her world and just stared. And I just thought for her, growing up, she's already seeing herself.
Yeah, she's already seeing herself. And I do think we did see ourselves to a certain extent. So we saw ourselves in, I don't know, someone was talking about the Cosby Show online earlier. But that still felt very far removed. It was so far removed. But the reason why I started creating Seeing Ourselves was because, firstly, it was down to the fact that I had an ankle injury and my normal stress relief had been removed very swiftly. And I sat there thinking, okay, I'd like to create something. And a few people on Instagram were saying, you know, go for it. Why don't you start creating? And I was called London Artist, but I didn't seem to be making a huge amount of work. And I had contemplated at the time changing my name. I was like, I'm not making that much work. This is a bit awkward now. And so I looked around the house and I looked to see what I had. And I had made collages before. And I found a huge stack of magazines. And I thought, okay, they're old magazines. Let me see what I can see. I found a scalpel knife because I'd made collages, and I found a cutting mat and some glue. And so I was looking through the magazines, and every time I saw a Black woman, I would cut the image out and put it to the side. So it just refers back to what you were saying about your love of magazines. And just coincidentally as well, or maybe not coincidentally, when I did my first degree over 20 years ago, my dissertation, was about women's magazines and the cult of I called it the cult of femininities, because there were all these contradictory messages in women's magazines. And so anyway, I looked back, I was looking through these magazines, cutting out images, and every time I saw one, I would cut one out and start creating a collage. And I really liked the freedom that it gave me. I was confined to being seated because of the ankle injury. So I had to just sit with my small A4 cutting mat on the sofa with my leg, propped up. And I started to make a new piece every night. And this happened for months and months. And I would post the piece on the gram. And I think the response to the work it just encouraged me to keep going. I absolutely loved it. And so that was 2.5 years ago. And I've now created, I keep saying 250, it's way over 250 pieces now. I stopped counting it around 250 pieces. And so many of those haven't been printed as limited edition prints. Many of them just sit in a portfolio, in 2 massive portfolios that haven't been seen. I've just recently sold an original piece, but they're mainly prints that I sell. All of the originals I keep myself, unless it's a bespoke commission. So yeah.
Amazing. So what does Seeing Ourselves mean to you?
Seeing Ourselves means me and so many others having the right to take up space, to show up in places where you don't see yourself. So for me, don't see myself in the museum sector as much as I would like to, or within the particular museum establishment I work in. And we're hugely underrepresented in that arena anyway. But it also means me feeling empowered, me feeling strong, me feeling as though I'm enough and actually being more than enough. Me embracing who I am, natural hair texture and all, because that for me is has been a really big deal. It's not for everyone, but for me it has been. It's also about me saying, yeah, this is me. I'll be exactly who I want to be. I'll make my own rules. The thing I love about making the series is that there aren't any rules. I get to make all the decisions. It's the one place I feel completely free, and I'm able to switch off from everything else that's going on. And I can be in a room with people and still be in my own little world. And it feels like a really special gift. When I create, by the end of it, I always feel as though I've exhaled. I finally feel as though I can breathe. Because I just feel generally there's so much intensity, and it's helped me massively with my mental health, hugely. And it's also coincided with sobriety. So at the same time as me having the ankle injury, I'd already reduced my alcohol intake because I just couldn't really drink and run. And so, yeah, I've also been sober during this time as well. So I think the two are very closely linked. It feels as though there were lots of layers that were peeled back, and I still continue to have to feel everything, whether it's good or bad. There's no masking anything anymore. No matter how much bright lipstick I put on, you still can't mask it.
What's the difference now with your creativity than before? And when I say before, it can be from any time that...
Okay. Well, I went to St Martin's, and that was my second degree, and I studied a fine art degree and graduated in 2011. And I remember, although I was able to explore lots of different types of art, lots of different mediums, I still didn't really feel free. I still didn't feel as though I had control. I had to do sketchbooks, and I know some people love making sketchbooks. But now I found, now that I don't have to, I don't make sketchbooks. I love the freedom of starting a piece and not having any idea of where it's heading or what I'm going to do. I have no plans in mind other than just to flow. That's the process for me is absolutely everything. So I think that's the difference. And although I get likes on Instagram for a piece, it's not about peers liking it. As you know, in art school, you have tutorials and people give you their feedback. And I remember one particular tutorial where I took in this, it was years and years ago, I took in this really large scale collage. And the collage was really badly received. Everyone hated it, including the tutor. And I remember feeling completely crushed because I loved the piece, and it was the piece, I'll have to show you actually, the piece talked about all the things that I really wanted out of my life, from life, and they were all really positive things. So I searched for words.
I've seen it.
Yeah, that piece. Yes. That's the piece they hated. And that's the piece that now sits in my living room, and it sits above me on the sofa, above the sofa where I've created most of the Seeing Ourselves series. And it's just there as my reminder that, yeah, people might not actually like it, but this is what I wanted to create. So I think that's the difference between how I create now and how I've created in the past. And also what I've done throughout the years is I've worked with lots of different community groups and young people and people of all different ages. But my real goal with working with people has been to help them to have a voice, help to collaborate with people who are underrepresented, people whose voices are often unheard. That's my passion. And I got to the point where I realised that I was, and I still continue to do the work, but I became really aware of the fact that, I was providing all these opportunities and collaborating, and I was learning a lot from people as well. It's not just a one-way thing at all. But where was my voice? And how was I was I really being heard? Did I know what my voice was? Was I happy to speak up? So I wanted to, through the series, I feel as though I have a voice, and it's becoming stronger and stronger. My confidence is growing. And like, one of the loveliest things anyone can say to me is that I look like one of my collages, because I'm like, really? Thanks.
Oh, I love that. I love that. You are. So with my podcast coming back, I'm wanting to talk to women who I feel are wholehearted in their approach. And that looks different for different people. But the essence is there. Yeah. And that's why I knew I had to have you on, because everything that you speak to is so wholehearted. And even just like that story that you've told about that piece that wasn't received well, that's what happens, right? Because we get so used to having to outsource almost our worth in that sense for commentary.
Yeah.
And maybe they personally didn't like it, but you did.
Yeah.
And that was enough. And sure as hell there was other people who would have loved it had they. And I know that they may not have had the training and all of the certificates or what have you that these people in that room had, but it's almost like, well, that could have stopped you.
Yeah, it could have stopped me. And I also remember a tutor saying to me that I didn't have to create work about being Black, about a Black experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was hugely damaging because I didn't have the confidence to stand up to that tutor. I just wanted to get the marks. I was at a really good art college. So ultimately I'm, paying an absolute fortune to be there at my dream college. And I did have some fantastic tutors, but there's always that one tutor, isn't there, that will stand out as being the one that kind of can overshadow some of your more positive experiences. But I think that's the difference between then and now. I can make work about my experience, and I can do that, as you say, wholeheartedly, without having to without my tone having to be policed.
There you go. And so many of us were being tone policed, and then in turn tone policing ourselves in order to assimilate.
Yes, and you're never going to fit in. And do you want to fit in anyway? Exactly. What are you fitting into? I just got to the point where I was like, really, I'm trying to get a seat at the table all the time. All the time I'm trying to get a seat at the table. So, got a seat at the table now, but am I allowed to speak?
Are you allowed to be yourself?
No.
If you're being told that it doesn't always have to be about you being Black, it's like, well...
But in so many other areas as well, that happens too. And I just thought, actually, how about I just get my own damn table?
Oh, you're talking my language.
I'm getting my own damn table and I'm sitting at my table. And that's making me smile as I'm saying that, because I am sitting at my table now, and it's the table that's in my studio, and it's the table that used to belong to my nan.
Oh.
And it's a new studio, and it's literally a few days before lockdown I got this studio and didn't have a table, and then remembered I had my nan's table in the loft that we'd had there for 12 years. So I'm at my nan's table. That's now my table.
And And she'd be so proud to know what you created at that table.
Yeah, and she always, and I've said this a few times in post, but she always used to say to me, nothing before it's time. And I think I need a T-shirt with nothing before it's time on it, because I always felt as though I was doing things a little bit too late, or, you know, I had my son while I was studying at St Martin's.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because I wanted to do everything. You don't know the half of it. And I did a postgrad while I was studying for my degree as well.
Hold on a minute, you did a postgrad while
I did so I did my fine art degree, and I was in my 30s. I can't remember how old now, you know, exactly how long ago, but yeah, I did my degree, and I had severe spinal problems, which meant that I ended up having surgery. And I had the surgery. Then 3 years later, I had my son. All of this during my degree. And then I was given the opportunity to study for a postgrad teaching certificate for a year. And so I did that as well as have my son and study. And I was working and travelling across the country training teachers in political literacy, which is post-16 citizenship education. And, you know, I was doing a hell of a lot. But I felt like I was really achieving a lot, and I felt really proud of the things that I was doing. And I love having, I was going to say I like, but that would be a lie. I love having lots of different projects on the go. Okay. I love it. If it's something I feel passionately about, then why not just go for it and do it all?
Would you do anything differently?
Oh, you mean what, in the past, just generally? I don't know if I would. No, I wouldn't change the amount that I took on and the amount of things I did. I wouldn't change the jobs I've done either. I've done lots of different things, because now I'm at this point in my life, I feel as though they've all contributed to the things I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So it would have changed me, and it will change this whole experience. And this whole experience now is an experience I absolutely love with all my heart. I absolutely love it. I love creating the work. I love people buying the work. I love people commenting on the work. It's basically about the work.
And I talk about that quite a lot, about it's when people go back and connect the dots of all of their experiences, they realise that they are more than qualified, more than enough to be doing what they're doing, but also this is the pathway and the journey that's got them there.
Exactly. That's exactly how it feels.
I always feel like whenever we talk, one of us will always end up saying there was a time when we wished.
That this was happening. And do you know what's so great? It was great talking to you, because you've got a great memory and you remember stuff. So when I'm doing you're like, yeah, but do you remember when you actually wanted? Do you remember when you said? And it's so true. All of this is more than I've ever dreamt of. You know, galleries, being interested, work being in so many people's homes, selling out of one of my series for the first time. I think I sold like 23 pieces within 4 days. And that was during lockdown. That completely blew my mind. And there have been so many beautiful and surreal moments, as well as really tough and challenging times. There have been some real moments of, wow, this is really happening.
Pinch me.
Say that again?
Pinch me moments.
Yeah. Really, honestly, it's just wonderful.
Tell me about life as an artist.
Oh, that's a good question.
So we know that we've got this cliche which is steeped in untruths about the kind of starving artist, troubled artist.
Yeah. See, I had a whole vision of what it meant to be an artist, and I thought until I got to a certain point I couldn't be one. So the kind of traditional image that's portrayed of an artist is usually a white male. That's the image that I was taught growing up. White male in his studio, and obviously there are female artists as well. But the artist that I am now isn't the artist that I imagined. And I think the minute I stopped imagining what an artist had to look like, or remembering those lessons that I'd been taught, that's when things started to open up. Because I was standing in my own way, pardon the cliche, but standing in my own way in that I was thinking I couldn't do things until I'd reached a certain point. So until I had a studio that wasn't in the house, my studio is in the house. So, I had to pay for a studio, pay some monthly rent. I would have to work less. When the kids were younger, I found it super, super challenging, and less so now that they're older and more independent. But after suffering with postnatal depression and anxiety depression with both kids, different times, I thought that was it. I thought that I couldn't. I thought those dreams were all gone. And I never imagined that, with my daughter being 7 and my son being 12, that I'd be doing the things I'm doing now. So life as an artist is, it's fitting in my art in the evenings a lot of the time. Before lockdown, it would be always in the evenings. Less so now, I can make in the day. And I was saying to you before we started recording, my son will knock on the door and come in and ask me how I'm feeling, give me a hug. He's 12.
He's a dream.
He's a dream. He'll make me nice mocktails or a rosehip tea. And life as an artist now feels really, really special. And it makes me feel quite emotional when I take a breather and I just kind of step back and think about how my life is now. So it involves a lot of being able to manage my time, a lot of organising and working towards deadlines, and then creating and allocating time for particular things, being good at organising, trying to be good at organising myself, and responding to emails and inquiries and yeah, it's
I love where you said that you were able to step into all of this when you let go of what you had imagined or envisioned an artist was meant to be, and that freed you up. And now you've got it fits in your life. Like you've never compromising anything. You're able to. I mean, yes, and it's vibrant and it's full and there's a lot, as there always is with family life and balancing work. But you're not letting it stop you. But they're complementing each other. Like they can coexist, right?
They can coexist, and because I didn't see other people doing this with children. There was one person actually who inspired me to go for it, and that was Sheena Rose. And I mention her quite a lot when anyone asks me about being an artist, because she's played such a big part in me becoming an artist in this way. I guess I've always been an artist, as many people are, but being able to own it and call myself an artist. So she's a brilliant Barbadian artist who I met a few years ago. We met through Instagram, and then when she came to London, we actually met up. And we really got on well. My mum is Barbados, my mum's family is from Barbados. And so, she was hugely successful. She is still hugely successful, but she had an exhibition at the Royal Academy at the time. And I remember when I realised, I can't remember how I found out, but realised that she was creating her entire series from her bedroom. And I was like, hold on a minute. She literally doesn't even have a studio. she's making all this work. She's flying over to the UK to do a performance piece at the Royal Academy, which was a phenomenal performance, and it stayed with me for years. And she's doing that without a studio, and it's almost like you had to see someone else. You had to see someone else achieving it, someone else turning all those stereotypes, all those kind of images on their head, for you to go, actually, I could make work at home. And it sounds so silly when I say it back now, but it almost gave me permission.
Yeah.
It almost gave me permission. And I hope that, I know that, because a few people have said that when they see my work and the way I've been creating, it feels as though it gives them permission as well. But you realise that we're not the one, I'm not giving them permission. The permission's always there. It's just being able to see it's possible.
Yeah, as humans, we feel like we need the permission.
Yeah.
And often it is, I say, just not to negate its importance, because it's huge, but seeing ourselves, right, doing it in whatever way that looks like is so powerful, because often it's like I find it an affirmation.
It is. And it's just helped me so much. We're now really good friends, Sheena and I, and we've been talking a lot more on Instagram during lockdown. But I think one of the loveliest moments was when I did a live, and she was just on the live, just popped up on there. And I was like, oh, Sheena Rose is in the house. And I was being quite silly. And I was like, I wonder if she wants to talk. And she did. And we had this live, a real impromptu one. And she made me cry right at the beginning, because she told me how proud she was of me and how she's watching what I'm doing and she loves the work. And I didn't realise how strongly she felt, and it just made me cry. But the evidence is all gone because the live didn't save. I was gutted, but Sheena's response was, it wasn't supposed to. It was meant to be in that moment.
True.
So true, but I'm still gutted.
And I want to see it.
Oh, it was so wonderful. And so many people got to see it as well. You can see how many people again. But
how beautiful. Tell me about lockdown. How's lockdown life been for you? So as we're recording this, we are in a semi-lockdown situation where, like, we're out and about and things, but things aren't back to normal. No. But we're not in kind of a hardcore lockdown situation. But how has this time been for you?
So I'm really conscious of the fact that lockdown hasn't been a very positive experience for so many people. And so sometimes when I'm posting, I feel a little bit apprehensive to post anything joyful, if that makes sense. But we've had this conversation, haven't we?
And I understand your apprehension, but I'm always going to be there saying, talk that joy.
Okay.
And own that joy, because for those that haven't had a positive experience, it helps for some, but also this is your experience.
Yeah. So okay, I will answer the question now. So initially I was really, really scared about lockdown and what this whole thing meant for, all of us in terms of health, in terms of what we're able to do, what we're restricted from doing. Prior to lockdown, I just really started to get properly into like a bit of an art scene and going to theatres and going to press nights and private views, and life was pretty amazing.
I know you were always out at that time. I was
out
with the baby with my boobs out feeding, scrolling as Sharon.
I was having such a good time. I was out at least 3 times a week.
You were living
I
your
mean,
best life.
I was living my best life. I remember once I even got sent a dress to wear to an event.
You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, I got sent a dress by someone called Lady Busalucci. Sarah, she's amazing, but she sent me a dress. I asked her if she had anything I could buy, and she said, "How about this? But you don't buy it, you just wear it and send it back." I was like, okay. Yeah, it felt really special. So that was pre-lockdown. So then going from that and suddenly having all this freedom that I never thought I'd have, because hell, 2 kids. Not hell is 2 kids. Hell, I've got 2 kids. And that was my feeling when I was younger. I'll never do anything again. When am I ever going to do stuff? And then everything just turning around and me having this. I was absolutely petrified. I was really scared of not being connected to people. I wasn't used to being at home at all. And I didn't really like being in. I couldn't spend more than a day. I'm still not good at spending more than a day indoors. It freaks me out a little bit. I need to get out. And I also thought that I wouldn't be able to sell any work. I was convinced that no one would have money during this time. I couldn't be more wrong. I've never sold so much work in my entire life. I've got collectors who have bought, I think the most anyone's bought from me during lockdown, one single person, is about 8 pieces. One person, and that's just during lockdown.
I have the biggest smile on my face, and I know this. I still am just.
And I've had more commissions during lockdown than I had for the entire year last year, or the year before.
What do you think? What changed?
I think I gave myself more. I had more time, but I also thought it's not just the time thing, though. It's not that. I think I just changed the way I viewed things, because I realised, and I still realise, things don't necessarily last forever. Things can turn around in an instant. Everything you knew can change, and you have no control. The things you thought you had control over, you have no control over. So if that's the case, which it is, what am I waiting for? What do I have to lose? I have literally nothing to lose by just going for it, by just posting joy that you've encouraged me to post, by celebrating things that when they're going well. And I feel as though I'm now surrounded by people 24 hours a day a lot of the time. But no, I do actually get a break. I go out quite a bit on my own. But I'm surrounded by people who truly love me and truly support me. And so that makes a huge difference to the way I approach my work now. It's had a huge impact. And just the pride in the kids' faces when, something goes well, or someone asks me to do a podcast, or when I sell a piece of work, or I get some lovely feedback, or a nice message that I share with them, because I share a hell of a lot with them. Because I feel as though they're such a big part of this, that word journey, but they are a big part of this journey. And so is my husband. I mean, his support is just off the scale. He's always supported me in anything I've wanted to do, even if that's going out all weekend like I used to way back. He'd come and collect me on it, He just, I feel like his love is truly unconditional. And I don't know how he's able to do that. He's just so, just so proud and believes in everything I do. So I think being surrounded sounds like a heavy word, but being able to kind of be in their presence and be around them is far better than I thought it was going to be. It really is. This is just the most surreal time. And it feels quite weird because it's a surreal time and we're in really strange conditions still, but it's also everything I've ever wanted, but a lot more.
It's all everything coexisting in one space. And we're all holding lots of emotions and extremes in one container.
In one container. So yesterday, I was telling you earlier that yesterday I sold quite a few pieces of work, and I did the day before, and I got to the point where I got so overwhelmed with joy that I just sobbed. But instead of sobbing on my own, which I think old school, you would sob on your own, you don't let your kids see you, do you? I actually called the kids because I wanted to talk to them about it. And we've been talking openly about sharing our feelings. And they accused me a couple of months ago of not sharing my feelings when I was feeling upset about something. And they said how hurt they felt by me not sharing with them, because the expectation is that, I'm always, And so I called them, and I think they thought there was something really badly wrong. And I was like, I'm just so happy. And that felt special, because I think the series is about vulnerability and strength. And I see vulnerability as a strength. So, those fragile paper cuts, when you look at the videos where the pieces, they're about to fall apart, and quite often they do. I think there's still power in that fragility. There's a very special piece that I might be able to talk about it once this has been aired. But there's a very special piece called Fragility and Strength, and that's just been purchased by a really big global organisation. And I couldn't think of a name, and I was like, this is it. It's Fragility and Strength. It's just this very fragile paper cut that's the most intricate piece that I've ever cut. And it's literally just a piece of paper that is, I don't know how they're going to mount it and frame it, but that's in their hands now. But
now.
Say that again.
That's their responsibility.
That's their responsibility now. But I think there's so much to be said for both vulnerability and fragility and strength.
Definitely, and this time is most certainly teaching us that. And I just love catching up with you, whether it's like a quick voice note on WhatsApp, or it's a conversation, or a gate date.
Yes.
This time has been a time of hardship and difficulty and challenge, yes. And then there has been abundance as well.
There has.
Right? And we but we don't need to shy away from that.
No, and I don't feel as though, and I wouldn't like people to feel as though this whole thing's been perfect for me. It hasn't. But I've also been really aware that there's only so much I can do. And so I've tried really hard not to put huge amounts of pressure on myself to do everything, to be everything, to the kids or to my husband. I also need to be there for myself as well. And I think there's nothing wrong with being selfish and just going, I need this time. This is the time I'm gifting myself.
I say self-ish. We need to be more concentrating on ourselves.
I think we do. Because I remember a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, saying to me years ago when I became a mum, she said, you're now the mothership. And I remember feeling really, it felt really heavy. I was like, I'm depressed already. That is literally sending me right over the edge. But I think what she meant, because I've thought about it for the last 12 years, I've had time to process. But I think what she could have meant is that you have to look after yourself first. You're like this huge, yeah. So if I view it in that way, I've been able to move forward. But you know, and it's true. It's okay for me to give myself that space and time that I need.
And that goes forward all the time, let alone at this time.
Yeah,
even more.
Exactly.
One thing that I feel like you have started to do, like one of the big differences in you is you started selling.
Oh yeah, that's the bit. You're right, actually. I started selling, didn't I? I've started talking about the fact that pieces are for sale.
Yeah, you did. I remember being like, Sharon, like, is your work for sale? I remember us having a conversation.
And I remember someone saying to me that I should that I should put the price on a piece of work on a post. And I was like, you have to be kidding. No, I can't do that. It was Sally, Women with Sparkle. I was like,
oh yes, Sally's wonderful.
Yeah, she's wonderful. But I felt really attacked. I was like, I'm not even ready for that. But she did it with love. There was no malice. But yeah, and I suddenly started thinking, I'm not telling people. And also, I had a website. No one knew that. I don't think you knew this, did you?
No.
Okay, I've had a website since last December. And I never posted about it on Instagram because I felt like it didn't feel finished. It wasn't good. You know, there were all these reasons why I didn't have many pieces on there. Felt really uncomfortable. And now I think I've got about 17 pieces for sale on there. And
you're selling straight off of Instagram. We're going to talk about Instagram in a sec.
Yeah.
But you're just selling straight off Instagram as well, like
literally straight from Instagram. That is it.
Sometimes it can be as simple as, like, we can think that we're open for business, but in actual fact, like,
so closed. The door's closed and the lights are out, and we're waiting for people to come through the door into the darkness. Where are they? Where are my collectors? Will they come in? The lights are off. It looks like there's no one at home. Put the lights on. Tell people they're for sale.
The amount of times I have to do that with clients, and it's just like, and even there's customers trying at the door. It's jammed.
Well, you make it so convoluted that it's just impossible. It's impenetrable.
Exactly. I'm like, where's the buy now button?
Where's the buy now button? And I'm just in the process, actually. I've got someone who helps me with my stuff, and I've just asked her to help me by working out how to do that shop thing, so you can press on it and go straight to the website.
Yes,
because that needs to happen.
That makes it so. Yeah.
But I think I also felt quite icky talking about money. So I used to work in sales a long time ago, like over 20 years ago, and it's very different selling something to someone else than it is selling pieces that are your own. And then you also, I don't know about you, but I was also brought up not to really talk about huge successes. It's almost like you'll jinx them if you talk about things, and you don't talk about money, and you shouldn't be brash and too, boasty. And but is it wrong to talk about the good stuff?
Not at all. Beliefs just hold us back.
Exactly. And do we really think we have that much power to be able to change destiny in the universe and all of that stuff? Do we really, just by talking about it? We're going to change everything if we just say things are going well at the moment.
Exactly. Oh yeah, that resonates so much. Instagram, I love the way that you do Instagram.
Thanks. What do you love about it? I'm just going to take a sip.
That you, I know you. I have the privilege to know you in real life. If I didn't know you in real life, you're exactly the same online.
That's the loveliest thing,
isn't it? When people say
that is the loveliest.
But that's you. And from the moment I met you, you were that person that I'd got to know online. Even though at that time you weren't sharing as much on Instagram. And I remember meeting you and being like, I want to see more of that, like on the side. And that's what you do so well without having to share everything. Like that's my thing, is that to show up wholeheartedly doesn't mean you have to share the kitchen sink, right? Like you don't have to. You there's things that you keep private, and that's the way it should be. But you just show up so authentically.
Thank you.
Overused term, but you do, and it's a joy when I come across your posts and I read them and I look at the visual. It's a joy, and that's what I feel like we can do with marketing. Like that is wholehearted marketing. That's soulful marketing, when the marketing isn't just doing the job of selling. It isn't just doing the job of letting people know if they want this piece in their home, this is how they go about it. But you're spreading joy and a message and doing some of the work with just your presence.
Yeah, I just want to use the platform I like talking, obviously. I love talking, and I love connecting with people, and I love working with communities. And this feels like it's an extension of the work I do, but just in a different way, using a different kind of method. And I think over the last couple of months in particular, I've started to just talk more openly on Instagram, like wake up in the morning. And I know people do morning pages, and I've done them maybe 3 times.
Yeah.
After I did your live with you last Sunday. And I think when I write like that, that's just me almost just doing my morning pages. So, writing down my feelings, just very openly and letting it flow, and then just stepping away, seeing how it lands, I guess.
What changed your relationship with Instagram? Like the way that you're able to show up?
Changed my relationship? I think the global pandemic. I think
before that though.
Was it before?
I mean, definitely the pandemic lockdown, you had another level to your voice, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think it was changing. You became more present, more open.
Yeah. I think I started to become more confident when I could see the work was being more and more recognised, and people were contacting me about the work. I got quite a lot of coverage last year, so I think that just took me to another level of feeling like, okay, I can talk about this. And quite a few people saying it's really unique and they hadn't seen work like it before. And I think for me, the best thing about work is the more I hear that people feel as though it's unique, and I can feel that now myself. So I don't need to hear it all the time, but it's lovely when it does happen. But I realised that I was creating something that was different and something that I hadn't been trained to do. So I didn't study this at Central St Martin's. I did video and sound, video and sound installation pieces with photographs, but I wasn't cutting collages. So this feels as though it's evolved naturally, and it's and even though I am returning to video a little bit with the collages and the moving image, this feels like it's just growing organically. It doesn't feel like I'm on the path to anywhere in particular, or I'm following the way, I'm following a kind of particular method. So I think as my confidence is growing, so is my practice, so is my voice on Instagram. And I think the more I talk, the more avenues open, more avenues open up. So, like talking about the fact that I'm sober, and then having sobriety and a collage workshop last year, and speaking on a panel in January at the Wing, which was amazing, with Africa Brooke, and it was hosted by Sober and Social Emily. Just doing those kinds of things and working with Love Sober. And so it's just opening up lots of different avenues where I'm being given opportunities to share my story and be seen. But you know, one thing I haven't mentioned actually is where the title comes from, the Seeing Ourselves title comes from. So it comes from a book entitled Seeing Ourselves by Frances Borzello. And it's a book about self-portraiture, women's self-portraits. And I remember when I started making the series, I was thinking of names, and I can't remember which came first, whether I saw the book and thought, oh, Seeing Ourselves. But I remember thinking Seeing Ourselves is a really good title, because I remember feeling as though throughout my time studying, I hadn't actually seen myself very much in the books that we were advised to use. And so in creating the work, I feel as though I'm readdressing the balance. The book has very few images of women that look like us. Yeah. I did reference it in one of my posts ages ago, probably about 2 years ago, and the author actually commented on the post, so she has seen it. That felt very special and a bit strange too. But, I just feel as though that collective idea of ourselves or us often means not you and I. It's like this universal voice of whiteness. And so I wanted to reclaim that so we can have the dominant voice.
Yeah, amazing. So powerful. And I think there are so many of us going through a journey at the ages 30s, 40s, 50s of navigating this now in this digital space. And I just feel really blessed that I get to do it with you.
And I'm lucky to get to do it with you.
In community, right? So we're not only seeing ourselves in your work, we're seeing ourselves reflected in space, taking up space on Instagram and online and on panels and on podcasts, and making sure our voices are being heard and creating our own tables. So everything you say, it hits my heart and soul.
And also that idea of every time I see a piece of my work as a photograph in someone's home, or they're doing a live or something, or they've taken, and my work's in the background, that completely blows my mind every time. Every single time it makes me gasp and feel really joyful. There was someone recent, actually, it was Noma Dumaswani, who's an actress, and she commissioned me a couple of years ago to create a piece featuring Nina Simone. And a few months ago, she was doing this video, and my work was in this video, and I was just like, oh, it's in her New York apartment, and I can see my work there, just taking up space.
That is taking up space. When your artwork is in people's homes, that is taking up space.
Literally. And also in the homes of amazing women like her, but also maybe people who don't really have Black people in their homes. Yep. And then there they are admiring an artwork which features a Black person, Black woman. And I've had people say to me, it's really made me think about how I interact with people, just your series alone. And that feels amazing, because it feels as though I'm kind of combining. It feels awkward to say this, but it feels as though I'm combining the kind of social activism type work and the community engagement work with craft and activism. And I know there's a term for it, which is craftivism. I think that's how you say it.
I've seen the word craftivism.
Yeah.
I can't even say it, but
yeah, I can't say it either. I can write it though.
Yeah. Why did it feel embarrassing to say it? Why did you?
Because I've never said that out loud.
It's so funny because as you were talking, I was going to lead into that. I was like, this is a form of activism. I believe that as Black women, us just walking around the world as ourselves, working on letting go of the tone policing, of the editing and the filming and the assimilating and all of the survival techniques that we've employed is our activism.
I agree, 100%.
So
me riding on a bike this morning
is
activism right there.
My roller skates arrived this morning.
Yes! Should we fill people in on why this is so exciting? Because shall I just talk about my bike?
Go on.
So I'm 45 and I have literally, within the last few days, learned to ride a bike for the very first time. And so this morning, with the help of my wonderful friend Krishna, who was cycling behind me, I rode in the middle of the road, which felt amazing and really terrifying all at the same time. But
amazing.
It feels amazing. And I'm determined to go out every day to practice. I'm determined. But it's just lovely doing stuff that you've always dreamt of doing. And understanding that it's never, ever too late. It's never too late. It really isn't. There were a number of reasons why I didn't ride earlier in my life, including my spine. Having problems with my spine wasn't conducive to riding a bike. But just getting to this point, as my nan would say, nothing before its time. I was meant to be learning to ride a bike during lockdown, during a global pandemic, giving myself little bursts of joy and feeling as though I'm achieving stuff. And achieving stuff that, say that again?
Maximum joy.
Yeah, maximum joy.
Photos of you on your bike, I'm like, that's joy personified.
And you've ordered your roller skates?
My roller skates arrived this morning. So
have you been out on them?
Not yet, because it was raining today.
Okay.
So I'm checking the weather forecast. I'm also got to order my protective gear.
Yeah.
Because, these bones are brittle.
Yeah. Do you know what happened to me? I haven't posted about this, but yesterday I noticed that I've got a massive bruise on my leg.
Yeah.
I had a bit of an entanglement with a with a railing or two.
Oh,
the bruise is massive. I've never had such a big bruise in my life. It's huge.
Oh.
But yeah,
back on the bike though.
I'm back on the bike. That was when did I do that? That bruise was Friday. It's now Monday, and I've been back out on the bike twice since then. So I'm all good.
There you go. Okay, my love. Before we wrap this up, tell me what's the dream like? I know that you're living a version of your dreams right now. What else? What's on there? Let's speak it into.
Okay. So the dream is what is the dream? The dream is to make work, for work to be in homes, even more homes, for this to be what I do full time, all the time. For me to have a team that I work with that can help support me, because I am finding it really, it can be quite tough going. Let's just say that at times, to juggle everything. The dream is to maintain a level of joy while creating. I really want to continue to, I don't want to lose that feeling of feeling excited when someone is interested in the work, or when I create a piece and it's complete. I don't want to lose that feeling. I like to exhibit lots. show in major museums, collaborate with people. There are so many different projects that I've spoken to people about during lockdown. But I'm also aware that I have to be really, and we've talked about this, that I have to be really careful with myself and how I look after myself. So ensuring that I stay nurtured and don't tip over into, less happier territories, let's just say. So the dream is just to keep working on what I love, to keep creating, to ensure that it's not just about, not only about getting the work into other people's homes, but that it remains so much more. You know, that there's still so much more, and I just want to keep experimenting and not giving up.
Amazing. You are amazing. Your work is legacy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You know that you're making me well up, so I'm just going to say thank you. Thank you so much, Nicola.
You are so, so welcome. I will include in the show notes where everyone can go find you on the gram and enjoy all your goodness. But yeah, thank you, my love.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this space and time to do this, Nicola. I really, really appreciate you, and I really appreciate our friendship.
I love you.
I love you too.
Hey love, and thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, you know what I'm going to ask you to do. Please head over to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review and a rating. It helps this important conversation and message get to more people. And also please feel free to share it with anyone who you think needs to hear it. I would love to continue the conversation over on Instagram. I'm there at A Life More Inspired. And I will see you on the next episode.